Hello there, and welcome to Talk Point on Dott Television. On Talk Point today, we're having a guest that we can describe as a nationalist, an environmentalist, and of course, an international figure of no mean repute. Talking about Chief Dr. Newton Jibuna.
Thank you for having me.
Dr. Jibuna is the chairman and founder of FAIT, which means Fight Against Desert Encroachment. He's also the founder of Nelson Mandela Park in Asaba, an author of several books, a columnist in national newspapers, a PhD holder in building engineering, a traditionalist, and of course, a community leader. That is how I want to welcome Chief Dr. Newton Jibuna. Chief, good to have you on our program.
It's a pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming to my office.
Looking at you now, you're a global figure, an international personality, but everybody has a beginning. Now, how do you describe your beginning? Was it a humble beginning? Was it that you were born with silver spoon in your mouth, or wooden spoon?
It's what I would call a normal growing up arrangement, extended family intervention, because I lost my parents at age 3, both of them. So, but with the extended family structure that we have in our culture, I didn't even know early enough that my parents were not there. So I went through the normal beginning that would, that is prevalent in almost every home. Going to the farm, going to the river to fetch water, fishing in the River Nam to supplement the allowances that one was getting. So it was a very humble, I would call it a very humble beginning that I cherish so much, because I owe whatever it is that I have attained in life today to that humble beginning. So call it the average.
If you came from this humble background, as you have told us, normal background and all that, we know you schooled abroad. So how did you come by that?
Scholarship. All through my elementary, secondary education was through some form of scholarship. And I will explain what I mean by scholarship. Families, friends of families and extended family members who knew that I didn't have my parents will buy my fish.
You were fishing then?
Oh yes, I fish at a premium. Okay. Sometimes I will hear them say things like, "Oh, let's go and buy from that young boy who lost his parents, who is, So that kind of scholarship saw me through quite a lot of the early stages of my life, and people came together to support me. Why I call it a different type of scholarship is that it's not easy to credit such a development to anybody, because I don't even remember who they are anymore.
Okay.
Because in doing whatever I'm doing today, it would have been nice to kind of acknowledge the fact that people came out to support a child like myself that didn't have parents growing up. And that scholarship went all the way to my living home, going to Lagos, starting work with the Federal Ministry of Works, and then sitting for scholarship exams. The first scholarship exam I sat for, I didn't do too well. But of course, that spurred me into doing more. And in my second attempt in 1961, I excelled, as was mentioned to me later. And that was how my scholarship extended from, people coming together and earning a federal government scholarship.
It's of public view and knowledge that you crossed the desert when you graduated. You had to drive in a car through the desert to come back to Nigeria. What was the inspiration?
When I graduated, mid-60s, it was the era of space exploration.
Mm.
And I was fascinated by it. How you can build a rocket and fire the rocket into the space and possibly to the moon to explore other planets.
Mm.
As a scientist, I decided to be part of that era.
Okay.
And I made inquiries, presented myself for interviews, but unfortunately, my sciences were not good enough. Because to get to that point where you become an astronaut or train to become an astronaut, you have to be all
exceptional in physics.
It will have to be exceptionally good, particularly in sciences. But mine was not good enough. And I felt bad because that was all I wanted to do at that time. But then I had to look for something close, something that is equivalent. Because when you become part of an era of civil rights movement, of Mandela being sentenced, of black liberation in Southern Africa, all those things were going on at that time. I felt that graduating in London, living in London, being part of those activisms, I needed to do something to show, to go back to Nigeria and say, yes, I was part of that era. Since I couldn't go to the space, since I was not able to gain admission to become admitted as a trainee astronaut, I came up with the idea of trying the impossible. That is, like you mentioned, driving from London back to Nigeria by road and alone. Yes, so that was how the whole expedition started.
Now the word is alone.
Yes.
Deserts. How did you come by the idea? What was, you were not afraid of bushes, you are not afraid of animals. What was your experience? Can you just briefly recount?
Well, you see,
you were doing that with a very strong car. How did you come by the car?
You see, if I don't know how to describe the life of an explorer. When you have that blood in you, and like I mentioned earlier, I fished in the rivers. I joined my hunting uncles to go on a hunting expedition.
Okay.
All those prepared me to become, more or less, not become, but I learned how to conquer fear at a very early age in life. I don't know if not having parents had to do with it. I don't know, but I learned how to conquer fear. And once you know how to conquer fear, you will start attempting doing the impossible. So I said to myself, look, I'm going to try. When I made inquiries about driving from London, driving through almost the whole of Europe,
yes,
crossing the Mediterranean, coming to North Africa, when I checked all the obstacles, all the dangers, like you mentioned, all the kind of near-death situations, I decided, yes, that maybe this was what I wanted. Maybe this was even going to be better than going to the space. Yes.
The ruggedness of the terrain, I mean, it did scare you.
Yes, it's well, driving through Europe, crossing the Mediterranean, coming down to North Africa was not that bad.
Yeah.
It was now leaving North Africa to attempt crossing the Sahara was where the major crisis or problem started.
Challenges.
Because in the first place, they wouldn't even let me to a point where in Algeria I had to sign a death warrant because at that stage I was not ready to go back to London. Oh. And I made friends with the gendarmes. Then gendarmes were in charge.
Yeah, the Francophone countries.
And because I made friends with them, because they were tired of having me there for 6 days without moving, they had no choice but to make me sign a death warrant. And that was it. I then decided to embark. But then I must say something, though, because even though many people don't like me talking about it, to be an adventurer, to be an explorer, and then to embark on a journey like this, you must be ready to die.
Okay.
Oh, yes. Because you see, if you go through history, you find that most explorers that attempted in the past
Some of them
century
ended up dying.
didn't come back.
Okay.
So, and since I had devoted myself to that cause, I was ready to face anything. You know, people may see it as, oh, suicidal. No, it's just you. It's just me wanting to do something extraordinary because people did it. People went to even to the moon, landed there, and so it's just question of becoming part of that era.
Yeah. After a long period, you also did another journey again, crossing the desert. What were you trying to achieve? And of course, what was the difference between the desert you saw when you were coming and the one you saw when you were going back?
The second time, I lived with a lot of fear.
Okay.
During my first expedition. I lived with a lot of not being in a position to capture all the various problems because at a stage I thought I was going to die. And I also saw that even though I prepared myself, but the Sahara, nothing on earth would prepare you for that kind of experience. Yeah. So at the time I got back, finally got to Nigeria and started thinking about what I went through, started thinking of writing a story, started thinking of documenting the kind of difficulties, especially for future explorers, because I wasn't just going to do it and go away. I wanted to do something that will leave a legacy for other people to follow.
An instigation for others.
In doing so, I discovered that I did not capture enough in documenting my experience. I did not capture enough information. That was one side of it. The second part of the story is that I saw what the Sahara was likely to do to the continent. Also, taking into consideration that in 1964, Kwame Nkrumah, the then president of Ghana, made a statement that the continent of Africa will remain in darkness until the Sahara is breached. In April 1964, he made that statement. That also stayed with me. That put together with what I said earlier on. And there was I, possibly the first person to attempt such an expedition. I needed to do more. Okay. I needed to see more.
So it's for the purpose of documentary.
That's right, for the purpose of putting up. Sadly, I saw, even before the conversation about climate change, global warming, I knew that a good part of climate situation, climate crisis, was going to come from the Sahara, because the temperature that I experienced in the desert, there is hardly anything near it. Ordinary words cannot even describe it. Okay. So I felt that having gained that experience, making a second expedition will enable me to put a better documentation, a better history in place. And that was how the attempt,
second attempt.
I call it an attempt.
Second attempt.
Second attempt.
Second successful attempt.
Yes. But again, the disappointing part of this whole story is the fact, just like the first one, I couldn't find anybody to come with me. I couldn't.
You thought you needed company?
Yes. Oh, yes. You see, when you're making documentations like this, you need somebody to help, because
maybe
you
like
tend
a cameraman,
to forget. Because it's not every time you encounter, especially near-death situation, that you want to
you're able to
write down and say this is. Most of the time you are living in fear. But if you have somebody with you, it's a lot easier to exchange information to do your documentation.
Now, can you let us into some of this
That's right.
near-death experience?
Yeah.
You told me you encountered people who said, you have to hold on here. We don't want you to go and die.
Yes.
You signed death warrant. That's
Yes.
with human beings.
That's right, yes.
Now, what about animals?
Animals don't, especially when you are in your car, there's very little they can do. They see you, maybe waiting for you to get out of your car.
You're sleeping in your car.
Oh yes, I slept most of the time in the car, except in the desert, in the proper desert. You know, desert is bare. There's no life in the desert. Yes. No greenery. Most animals are vegetarians. So there is nothing in the desert. Nothing grows in the desert. So there is those dangerous animals you think about. You don't find them in the desert. It's only on the periphery. Before and after, that's where you encounter animals. But of course, there you are more or less close to life, and you can now sleep in your car. But in the desert, I was sleeping on just on the sand, which is as good as sleeping on a mattress.
All right, let's come to this one. After the second journey,
yes,
you have started documenting, and of course, you entered into advocacy. From what we learned, on the issue of climate change, the need for afforestation, especially. You are reputed to have built some green cities around. What inspired that? And what level of assistance did you get? Were you doing it all alone, or you were partnering with government?
Well, when I finished the second expedition, because again, like the first one, people thought I was going to die, or people thought I was still joking with my life. I would tell you a short story of. I had a relationship with British Museum, and they too knew that I was attempting to go make a second trip. CNN heard about it. They also came to Lagos to interview me before my journey. So that was what launched the whole thing.
The second journey started from Lagos?
From Lagos, yeah.
Okay.
That was
like a return journey?
Yeah, but turn it into like a global information.
Okay.
British Museum now said, look, if you get to Lagos, we will host you. In fact, the title, Desert Warrior, was given to me in London.
I was going to come to that.
Yes, not here.
Yeah.
And it was interesting for me when I got to London and saw they left a copy of the invitation card to me. And it was funny that at the end of the invitation, it was written there, if he makes it. So even they, planning to receive me, to award me with, didn't know that I was.
They were not hopeful that you will arrive.
Yeah. Anyway, so all that launched me into like a global activism that I now found myself in. And so much was being expected of me or of my expedition. At that time, the issue of climate change information was starting.
Yes.
And not just the nation Nigeria, the global community expected, look, this man that has done this twice successfully
should be an ambassador.
Should be an ambassador. But despite the fact that was glorious for me, but I wasn't going to take it for granted. So I decided to seek further knowledge, which now landed me in Israel. I went back to the university in Israel, in Ben Gurion University.
To study what
to
now?
Study the science of desertification. And it was at that point that I realized that I needed to have an instrument with which to begin, and that was how the institution you mentioned, Fight Against Desert Encroachment, was incorporated, both in London and in Nigeria, to start a proper activism, to start a proper campaign against desert, because the entire global community had accepted that desert was a problem, not only over climate change issue, was a problem for the continent. Like Kwame Nkrumah said, is that, it's the only continent in the world where you cannot go from north to south, east to west. Can you imagine that? All the other continents, look at America, for instance. Centuries ago, you can drive from New York to California. A flight that takes about 7 hours, you can do it in a week. Here we can't go from North Africa to South Africa or North Africa to West Africa by road because of the desert. So there was that need to begin a process that will
Now,
help to tame the desert like Kwame Nkrumah wanted to do in the 60s.
Okay, now, from the time you went on the first expedition to when you did the return journey, what was the time difference?
30 years.
And then, and then two, how much has the desert encroachment enlarged, if you like, within that period?
Yeah, 30 years because I needed to make a living.
Yes.
When I finished, and of course I had a job with the Federal Ministry of Works, and later left for private sector, still West Africa. So I took that time as well to deliberate with myself. I took that time to kind of do more research. I took that time to prepare myself psychologically, mentally, physically, because it's not just something. And also, I took that time to convince the rest of the world, particularly Nigerians, that this whole thing can be done. And that was why when I now planned the third expedition, I had volunteers coming from all over the continent. People applied from Senegal, people applied from Mauritania, people applied from Niger Republic. So it became like, it now became a movement. Yes. All right, what's the difference between first, second? The desert had expanded immensely. In fact, it's covered in all my writings and my presentation to UN and African Union. It's there. The formations, I managed to put them together. They are there. As we speak, it's still expanding.
Still expanding.
That's the ugly part for a whole continent, like Africa, not being in a position to bridge something Kwame Nkrumah talks about in 1964.
Now, is it still possible to bridge the desert as it stands today? Is it possible?
And what are the
things to be done?
I've designed the highway that will go across. I have presented that to federal government. I have taken it to AU and I've taken it to the United Nations to see if some conversation can start on how to bridge the Sahara.
When you say bridge, what do you mean?
Bridge, that is to build a highway across it.
So that people can be traveling across,
the
desert.
Tamed. Because you see, don't forget that the continent of Africa is not the only continent with a desert. It's just that the Sahara is the biggest in the whole world. The next to Sahara is Gobi in China. I had to go to Gobi. Oh yes, I went to Gobi to go and see. The Chinese Academy of Science, sponsored by Jordan, to China. They invited me to come and see when they found out what I was trying to do. They too are bridging. They have started the process. It's not an easy thing. It's something that may take decades to achieve, because you have to, first of all, like they did in Israel. You know, the whole of Israel was desert.
It's a desert.
Look at what they have turned Israel into, which is why they have a university that specializes in science of desertification. So yes, it is possible to bridge. It is possible to tame, because you have to tame it. And then the other information that is, after my studies in Israel, I came back. Though my plan was to do just activism, a movement that will let the global community, the countries
create the awareness.
But you know, in Africa, it's not easy to just, if you just rely on activism, they will just kill you off somewhere.
Yes.
So I decided to, using the Israeli experience, to do pilot projects in the north.
I was coming to that.
Yes.
Yeah, greening of some of the cities.
That's right. Yes.
Can you just tell us about them? The cities that were
that
benefited from the effort. I'm sure it's under the FAID.
Oh yes, using now registered company, now acquiring some qualification or acquiring some knowledge in Israel. I decided to more or less use the Israeli experience or sciences to first, because it had to be done in a desert-prone community. Fortunately, at that time, I became very close to the Emir, the then Emir of Kano, Alhaji Adobayero, who also became my friend because of the expedition.
Yes.
Apparently, it turned out that he was contemplating going across the Sahara Desert before he became Emir. So when he read in the papers about my expedition, he invited me to Kano. Wonderful. And in the process, we became friends. So when I returned to Nigeria from Israel, I went to him and I would like to start a process that will help to push back the desert. He then took me straight to the governor of Kano State. We deliberated over it, and we found out that in Makoda, that is in Dambata area of Kano State,
yes,
was also being threatened. In fact, the communities were already beginning to migrate out because of desert encroachment. So they said I should start there. So of course, I had to go around the world looking for funding, which I got a bit, and then I started the process of, again, using the Israeli experience. First of all, finding water, because you can't do much without water. Fortunately for me, Amina Mohammed then was the advisor to the president on Millennium Development Goals. So he approached the river basin authorities in the community to help with water. And in addition to that, I had to drill boreholes. And you can imagine drilling boreholes in a desert area. It was not that difficult, but not that easy, but I managed to find water in some places. And I built reservoirs. And then the irrigation system, and started the process of land reclamation.
Yeah.
Because you have to do the land reclamation first before you start.
That's having to put away the sand, because sand is the problem there.
That's right. Bringing in materials and all that. And then that was how the process of planting wall of trees started. See, the interesting thing there is, because it starts the problem, and I know we will come to that in Nigeria, sustainable, to be able to sustain what you do.
Yeah.
Planting trees, especially then I was living in Lagos. You don't just plant trees and go away.
Walk away.
Yeah. So there was that now need to build a school around the Wall of Tree project. We started building a secondary school with 15 pupils. And we used the school children and their families to nurture the trees we were planting. And in a few years, the population of the school went from 15 to 600.
Wonderful.
Because the environment started changing. Greenery started returning. Families started coming back. Farmland started coming up.
Okay.
Those that had migrated out of Makoda started returning. They gave me a title and built me a house right in the middle of my project.
Wonderful.
So you can imagine, and that is how this whole thing can be arranged, replicating, because there are 11 states in Nigeria that are affected by this. So if one can replicate,
so how many of them were covered by this project? Only Kano.
I covered Kano.
Okay.
When during the opening ceremony, which was big, I got a lot of money, some money from the British government, and the British High Commissioner came for the opening ceremony. The governor, of course, and the deputy governor came. Other governors from neighboring states also came. And the idea was to replicate this in at least as many states as possible. Not only that, we stopped the desert from encroaching. The community, they are now striving. They're even thinking of building cottage industries
Wonderful.
Because the neem trees, when they fruit, you can make a lot of things from neem oil
Yes.
and soap and detergent. You can make. Then my mangoes and the oranges, they are even thinking of starting industry that will be making orange juice, mango juice, and the rest of it. So you can do many things with a very little project.
When you were talking, you mentioned how passionate you were when you were younger about Nelson Mandela, especially when you were abroad. And then you ended up building Mandela Park in Asaba. How did it come?
Well,
did you ever have physical contact with Mandela?
Yes, by activism. As a student again in London, I joined after he was tried, after he was arrested, tried, and imprisoned for life. A lot of those of us Africans, activists in London, started a lot, demonstrating, and and then we formed Free Mandela Movement, and I rose to become the vice president of Free Mandela Movement. And of course, South Africans in London and families of Mandela, I think they've heard or noticed me. I didn't even know until when they now freed him.
Yes. That's
my name
92 thereabouts.
My name popped out, and they invited me to meet with him. Not only that, they invited me to meet with him. When he was now going to New York for the convention, the United Nations immortalized him and made a day possible, 18th of July of every year, to be celebrated as World Mandela Day. The only person in the whole world. So honored. I was invited to go with him to New York. That was where my glory, in fact, it probably would stand down as one of the nicest things that ever happened to me, because to be there in the UN, having a man I had, worshipped. A man that
I show sympathy for.
I believe, because, like I said, I was following his arrest.
Yes.
As a very young man, and then his imprisonment. Anyway, so it was during that commemoration that the United Nations decided that monuments should be built around the world to commemorate his legacy. Because if a small percentage of the world would be like Mandela, the world would be a better place. Somebody that sacrificed his entire life for the emancipation of his people. For that, even as I talk about it, I get moved by the whole situation. And I asked them if it was possible for me to
do your own thing.
Do my own thing in my own little way. They said yes, if I have any plan, I should go and bring it. So I rushed back to Nigeria and prepared what you have here today, and took it back to the foundation. And they told me out there that what I was proposing, if built, will turn out to be the best of all the monuments. So that also gladdened my heart, and it helped in many ways in finding the funding for the building of what you have here. But I must also applaud the Delta State government at that time, because when I got the endorsement,
that was the government of Emmanuel Duan.
Yes, right. When I got the endorsement, I was pondered. Where will it be? Abuja? Will it be Lagos? Or will it be my home state? I then remembered that when I celebrated my 75th birthday in Lagos, and the governor came for the celebration, I only planted 75 trees. He was a planter. The governor of Lagos State also planted. The governor made a statement, and it's very being politicians.
Yeah.
He said he'd been following my work in Kano, the things I've done in Abuja, and also the parks I'm building in Lagos. But I was yet to do anything in my home state, and everybody applauded. So that kind of so when I remembered that, Now, equipped with this endorsement, with a bit of money, I came straight to His Excellency and said, "Look, I have this endorsement." He couldn't believe it. And he gave wonderful support and provided this wonderful location where you now sit.
Now, the concepts, we are seeing so many things here.
Yes.
Of course, you mentioned your activities with the British Museum?
Yes.
Because this place is housing the Didi Museum.
Yes.
And of course, we have parks, we have animals around, even a swimming pool of Olympic size. So what's the whole concept? Is it a resort? Is it?
It's a resort.
Okay.
It's a resort. I wanted to bring in here, or like what I've done in other places, my whole life.
Yes.
As we discussed earlier on, I'm a building
engineer.
I've been an environmental activist. I've been an arts connoisseur. So I wanted, and I think I'm hoping that this will be my last bus stop because of my age. I can't see myself going elsewhere now. And so I felt that in this last bus stop, I should have everything that tells my story, that talks about my journeys, that talks about my activism, that talks about so many things that have captured my life. So that's why you have sporting, animal conservation, environmental activism, cultural preservation of arts and things, all those things that I have been advocating for over all my life. I wanted everything, and that is what I have tried to.
As a lover of environment and of course the arts, more of conservation of the environment through planting of trees. Recently, some mango trees, that are Dott Asaba, maybe beginning from the River Niger down to beyond Asaba, they were cut down because of an incident. How do you view what has happened? Because now the trees have been cut down, everywhere is open now. How do you feel about it?
I was praying you wouldn't ask that question because it was like putting a knife through my heart when I saw what happened. First of all, let me say my heart goes to the victims because I was told that if somebody fell and killed somebody, so that people don't go start thinking that I am not. I prefer trees to human beings. No. It's something I have even refused to talk about because for over 50 years of my life, I have lived on preservation of God-given nature. You see, what we do to the nature, to what nature is look at how much we take, and then look at the little or nothing that will put. Take a corn, one seed of corn. When you take a corn, yes, there are probably hundreds of seeds in a corn. It's only one that you put down, and in 3 months, look at what it's giving you. This is harvest season. People are harvesting corn that was put down a few months ago. Few months, we're going to be harvesting yam. You put a seedling like this. That seedling will give you a big tuber. Sometimes 2 or 3. So if people cannot stop to think of what they get from nature and begin to think of what to give back, I feel very bad. Those trees on Okpanam Road, if you know what they provided to nature, to the environment, to just wake up one day because of a terrible accident and start cutting down everything, it beats my, I think I've not recovered from it. Now, why? It goes back to what I have been preaching. If you read yesterday's pointer, I wrote about creating that states and governments should create Ministry of Maintenance. You don't build what you cannot maintain. You don't commission something and go away, and you don't want to think about what will happen to it in a year, 2 years from now. As a builder, there is a clause in building contract that is defect liability period.
Okay.
It's enshrined in every construction,
Contract.
which means when the job is finished, you sit down with the contractor and decide defect, because every project will have a problem.
A liability.
You agree with him, I will maintain this road for 6 months or for 1 year, during which period the ministry will join in maintenance so that when they go, they take over. We don't do them anymore. We don't do that anymore.
Have we ever done it before?
Let me go back to the trees. We did. For a long time, we stopped maintaining those trees. I don't plant and go away. I just told you stories about
what
happened
happened
in Kano. They did not maintain those trees. They allowed the tree to grow bigger than the roots.
Oh.
There is a way, you go around the world, you see them with their ladders, they are trimming, they are controlling.
Okay.
That was never done.
Doesn't trees have ages? That is a lifespan. Does the tree not have a lifespan?
Not a mango tree like that.
Okay.
There are trees that can go on for, but even if that happens, it's the tree that will take its life. You would know that a tree it will start losing its roots and branches, and that's probably when you go and cut it. Not when a tree is still thriving. What happens is that it was not maintained. It became with branches all over, with very little stem to hold,
roots
to hold. Which is why if we do it here, you have to give back. You can't keep taking from nature without giving back something. In fact, in some cases, we don't even give back.
We don't give
anything.
at all.
How is that possible?
Looking at you, you have become a model in our country. You have seen it all. How do you assess our democratic process, how we have developed over the years?
I think I've done a lot.
Okay.
I have breached a lot of, divides that we have in the country. I may not have been appointed ambassador of, but on my own, I have been this country's ambassador. I have been a bridge builder. I have brought communities. I think I will go down as the only Christian in this country that built a mosque for the Muslim community in my hometown.
Okay, that's in Akwibo.
Yes.
Yes.
To promote religious harmony.
Okay.
And it's working. It has worked. It's a pity because I have also written in my column in the point that I'm not bequeathing to my children the kind of Nigeria that I had. Because I have driven all the way from Lagos to Maiduguri on my own. I have traversed virtually not just the whole country. I've lived in Talata Mafara. Most Nigerians, when you hear that name, will not.
Where is
Sokoto, Sokoto State. I have, if I begin to talk about the places where I have lived in this country, you'll be amazed. But have I given back enough? It's a work in progress. But unfortunately, age is not on my side.
Yeah, but age also is an advantage.
Yes, but
because when you sit people down to talk to them, many of them will listen to you because of your age.
Don't take what you see for granted. I'm not that easily movable anymore.
Okay.
I'm talking, yes, but I'm also writing in national newspapers.
Okay.
I'm a weekly columnist in the Pointer.
Okay.
Which means that I write every day.
All right.
I share some of the things you talked about. Whether they read, in fact, I have been writing for over 10 years now.
Okay.
Sometimes I've had cause to ask questions. Do they really read my column until one day I was, the VIP lounge trying to fly out, and somebody introduced me to another man, and he said, "Oh, is that the man that is writing all those nonsense?"
Excuse me?
Yes. And I looked at him and I smiled and I said, "Well,"
you
I
sympathize
shook
with
his
him.
hand. No, I said, "Well, thank you for reading my columns."
At all. For reading at all.
Yes. So, but I've had cause to ask questions. Do they really read? Because if they read, I don't think we will be in the kind of situation we are in today. And I will tell you why. 20-something or 30-something years ago, I predicted Hirschman crisis.
Okay.
I predicted after my tour, and I said, look, I talked about it, wrote about it to a point where Fashola then invited me to ESCO, because I wrote in one of my columns that 60% of the migration that will take place in this country will end up in Lagos if nothing was done. So he invited me to ESCO. And I made a presentation to show how the migration was going on and what it would do,
vegetation,
the insecurity crisis that would follow. Do you know, it was Lagos State that sponsored my 4th expedition because of that. But what are we doing? What are we turning the country into? If some of the things I recommended, because the origin of what we have today is started from there.
Yeah.
Nigeria became a dumping ground for Libya, all the way from Libya, Mauritania, all the places where they were having crisis and having wars and wars. They were escaping, and they were escaping with their guns and ammunition, moving into Nigeria. I saw it happening. I predicted it. And look at Nigeria being exported from other countries. These countries have been exporting their criminals. They are fighters that are no longer able to fight. They are all because it was easy, very easy. If once they get from Libya to Mauritania, from Mauritania, they come with their cattle. Also, they come with their AK-47s. Nigeria didn't. I took pictures of those in animal husbandry. Animal husbandry is a wonderful professional thing, very profitable. But you don't allow that business to
become nomadic. But you have been witness of how we have evolved. How do you score us in our political journey? Democratic journey, I mean.
But I can tell you, I know where we came from.
Okay.
But I don't know where we're going.
To end this wonderful interaction, what would be your advice for younger Nigerians in the midst of the situation we are in?
Living in themselves. You see, the mistake we make in this country is we ask too many questions here and there, but we don't ask ourselves enough questions. I have always advocated, and anytime I talk to young students, I try to say to them, look, before you go out asking those questions, ask yourself first. And that's my advice too. First of all, find out who you are. And by asking yourself questions, find out where you want to go. Then if you do find that answer, you then begin to take your steps, no matter how, and I love my country. That is why I have, one of the reasons why I'm granting this interview, because I love my country. And I know that through your channel, I can reach out a little bit more than I am. in trying to get, especially the younger ones. And right now I'm investing in human capital development. I'm investing heavily. I bring kids here, children, school, university undergraduates. I bring them over here for a chat, with the hope that I can begin some kind of a movement that will, bring about mindset, bringing about
direction,
thinking outside the box, and bringing about self-reliance.
Obliging us with this program. Want to thank you immensely for doing that. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So much with our interaction with somebody we can refer to as a sage. And what are the takeaways from this interaction? First, he says, we are taking a lot from nature and we're hardly putting anything back. It's risky for us. And for us as a nation, he's assessing us, well, from the Nigeria he grew up in, he feels that we have gone a lot backwards and we should begin to retrace our steps to move forward as a nation. And for the younger ones, he said, stop asking a lot of questions from different people. Ask yourself, who am I? What can I be? What can I do? And then that will propel you forward. And of course, on that, he has been a lot of interactions with younger persons, trying to influence them to think outside the box. That's how I want to end this interaction today with Dr. Newton Jibuna. Thank you, sir, for obliging us this time.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.